another little overlanding, I guess you'd say, side adventure.
Yep.
My son calls this area of Montana Rohan, so enjoy the music.
Share the road.
Now, this site was established by the Jesuits and later abandoned completely by them in 1866. But the Indians killed the mission flock herder, forcing the priests to abandon the site.
What do you think, Catherine?
Cool. I mean, it's beautiful. Right?
It is beautiful.
The weather is good.
In 1874 to build the small log church that you see today, the white church in these pictures, and the mission developed into a school. The Catholic Ursuline Sisters came in 1884 to establish the first local school for both Indian and white children. The sisters stressed music and the arts, an opera house, which they built in 1896, and they held concerts and performances given by students and visiting artists. This, however, rubbed the Jesuits the wrong way, though what they felt was a disobedient group of nuns who was spending a little too much time in the arts. So that kind of gives you an idea. Some of the early complaints of the nuns were that the Jesuits didn't do any work. They had to chop all the wood. They had to get all the water. They had to do everything, and they were kind of what would be a little disgruntled with the situation, and the Jesuits weren't necessarily happy with the nuns. So there was kind of a mutual parting of the ways that happened as the school ended up being ran mostly by nuns. The boys' schools closed in 1896, and in 1908 fire destroyed the old boys' school buildings. In 1912, the Ursuline nuns and the school moved to Great Falls, but Indian girls were still educated here until 1918. When a fire ultimately destroyed the convent and the school. And a little piece of history that's for free is the head of the Ursuline nuns who was here got deathly ill, and she called for someone to care for her. No one other than Mary Fields, who she had worked with back east. Now, Mary was set free in 1865, and by 1885, she was starting her own businesses. She had been a slave. And so Mary Fields came to the mission, and she nursed the head nun back to health. But then she ended up getting kicked off the mission because when she came to Montana, she was a gardener back east, but when she came to Montana, she fell in love with the Wild West. And she was known to smoke cigars, drink whiskey, and carry guns, and so they asked her to leave. Well, she went on to become she drove a postal route with a wagon and all, and one of the first black women in history to run her own postal route, to run her own business, and she became known as Stagecoach Mary. In most of the pictures, you see her carrying a shotgun, but she was well loved, and even after her 20 years or so of run the rail business, she ended up starting other businesses and eventually was taken care of in the town of Great Falls. And there was a holiday almost when on the day she passed away so that everyone who knew her could come out and celebrate her because she was well loved by her community. She was a little rougher on the edges and had to leave the mission, however, so the mission from the very beginning was kind of built under the premise of government funding coming to help it, but government funding never did come. In fact, that program got canceled before the stone building was built. But through donations and things that were raised, they were able to ultimately build 2 different times because it burnt down 2 different times. They were able to build the mission. 2 tribes willingly brought their kids to the mission to learn math, spelling, and animal husbandry, reading. Those were the 4 main things that they taught. Ranching was huge. They taught them all about ranching. There was a lot of rumors of very strict nuns, and there was also a lot of sickness, both among the Indians and also among the nuns. They had a lot of sickness happen here, and they lost a lot of people due to sickness here. The Blackfeet were the most resistant kids in the school. Like I said, there were 2 other tribes who were willingly putting their kids in the tribe. And in fact, there was a Native American who was allowed to come be one of the teachers at the school who knew English to teach them how to read and such. So they had a lot of local help in building the school. It was a brave attempt to build anything in this remote, this far away from everything, and it was a bold attempt to have a school out here, to have a mission out here. There were 3 priests who were killed by natives through the years here, and 1 civilian. So the total of 4 people working on the mission were killed by Blackfeet during this time. Ultimately, before anything burnt down, the Blackfeet started sending their kids here too, so there was that as well.